Okay, we are recording. Tiffany, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right, thank you. Well, look, I've got so many things to ask you, and we've got a bit of time today, so I'm super excited. But I always kick off the show the same way, and I'm going to ask you, please, to start your playlist by telling me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
I was really torn on this one
This is
because
the one that everyone says is tough. Everyone says
there's
this is the tough one.
really so many. Like there was like three. There was like a Guns N' Roses, Paradise City, which is really great. And then of course there's another one that escapes me, but I heard it after you asked me this question, and I was like, oh no, that might be the best one. But for me, it's Eye of the Tiger. It's used in a lot of sporting events. I'm an MMA fan, so it's used in a lot of MMA stuff as well. But definitely, it just gets you. It's like you just feel like you're gonna be a hero knocking it out of the park, right? And of course, it's classic 80s. So there you go.
Tiff, this conversation's going to spiral even deeper now. I do a podcast for the UFC.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, I didn't know.
I'm obsessed with MMA as well.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so if you was to get in the octagon and you was going to do that ring walk, would that be your walkout?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's this is my walkout for most days when I don't want to get out of bed.
Well, I mean,
It's just me, I'm like, come on, you can do it, girl. It builds you up. There's something it touches your soul. I don't
yeah.
know. There's something about it. It really amps you up. So that's why I picked it. I mean, of course, I love the sentiment of the song. Of course, I loved Rocky as well. All of it. But it is a classic 80s song, I have to say. It takes me back to good memories.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're of a very similar age, Tiff, and I think in my formative years, Rocky Three, when that come out, and Stallone was at his peak of his kind of oiled up, muscular frame, and
Mhm.
looking probably the best Stallone's ever looked in that film,
Yeah.
and you've got him with Mr. T as well. It was just the ultimate 80s, you know, movie with like just there were so many good songs in the Rocky franchise as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
like Eye of the Tiger absolutely knocks it out of the park.
And when it comes on and like when you're at a club and they play it, it's like everybody just goes crazy.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
mean, literally, sometimes I've been in cars before where I'm just stopped at a red light and somebody pulls up and they've got Eye of the Tiger on, and I'm like, yes, yes, I'm missing out. What's happening? So yeah, I've had that moment as well too. It just makes you
Yeah.
happy.
I also like the fact that they've just had a moment. They're just rocking out to Survivor's Eye of the Tiger in their car, and
Oh
then
yeah.
there's a crazy woman banging on the window having it as well, and it's like, I think that's Tiffany.
Well, hey.
Oh, wonderful. Well, look, we're talking about formative years, so let's take you back. And for the second track, Tiff, I'm going to ask you to tell me, please, the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
Well, again, there's been so many. Gosh. But I would say Let It Be by the Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan, but just, I mean, and it still gets you. I mean, it's something that's such a well-written song, of course, but the sentiment, it's just so appropriate for life, isn't it? Really, and it keeps getting more and more appropriate.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know, it was just such a beautiful song. The vocals are amazing. I love everything the Beatles do, but it just, yeah, I don't know. The song always made me tear up. I don't know my connection with it because I was a young girl when I heard it,
Yeah.
but I just remember feeling attached to that song and going, what a beautiful song. And it always gets me. It really does. I will actually stop what I'm doing just to listen to it. That's one that puts me, I don't want to say in a trance, but I stop and I just engage with that. It's just a beautiful song.
And if you had to pinpoint what that emotion would have been, what do you think it was?
Um, well, I mean, I don't even, I mean, I don't, you always wonder what somebody's writing about, the deeper meaning and things, because sometimes it's not just what the lyrics are saying, what they're connected to. But for me, it's always been, I've been challenged a lot, especially when I was a kid. I lived in a very chaotic home, a lot of love, but a lot of things that were out of my control. And so even the words "let it be" were kind of like something that I learned to embrace. I had to go to a lot of counseling because of my mom with being an alcoholic, and so a lot of times we would say that there's the serenity prayer, things that are out of your control. Let me accept, and do my best for the day. Um, and so "let it be" was always something that I kind of had around me, that phrase. And it really is, it's something that sometimes I just have to go, okay, just let it be. Just take it in. Love each other. Be in the
Yeah.
moment. Enjoy life. Look at the good. The bad is there, whatever it is. But sometimes you don't have control over that stuff. And looking at, just again, how you can make that moment better. So I kind of learned those things very young in life. I'm very grateful for that, because I probably would have been a different type of person had I not learned that about 12 years old. So I think that's what that song did. It was really a phrase that I came across in meetings a lot, but also, again, I love piano. I've always wanted to play piano. I've always wanted to. So, it's just a beautiful song all the way around.
Just one more sort of question on home life. I don't want to sort of, upset you or take you anywhere particularly dark with this question, but I just want to know, like, was home like a musical environment?
It was actually, but music, well, I mean, so two things. Obviously, I have a cookbook out now. I've become a foodie, and the cookbook is called Pop Life. So it's all about, living out loud, gathering people with again. And I have some great memories as a child where my mom loved to cook. And she loved to invite people over, and we had lazy Susans and different, finger foods, and it was a lot of fun. And I had a lot of like put on back then it was the records with the we had a huge record player that it looked almost like a bookcase,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like a desk, and you opened it up, one of those proper things. And I remember my parents putting on their albums, their vinyls, and everybody dancing in the living room. It was a thing. So I had a lot of that. But then my mom being an alcoholic, she loved Elvis and she loved Freddie Fender. And I don't know if people remember what Freddie Fender, but I always knew when I walked in the house, if Elvis and Freddie Fender were playing, it's not a good day.
Oh, okay.
And so my mom would sometimes be, drinking, and she'd be very sad, and that was the music. So I learned that again even as a child, music conjures your emotions, it heals you, it comforts you, it excites you, it does all of that. So I remember when I would open the door as a kid coming home from school, if I heard any Elvis or Freddie Fender, I'd be like, "Oh, okay, this is not going well today." And if I heard other music, I was like, "Oh, my mom's in a good mood. Okay, great. Everything's great." So yeah, I grew up like that. And I mean, for me, Rod Stewart, when I used to tour when I was really young and I felt very lonely. I didn't drink, but at that time, if I put on Rod Stewart, I noticed it was me in a bubble bath, soaking, feeling sad because I was away from my friends in America, and everybody, they were older than me, so they were at the bar. And I would be out on the road, and you're riding that high all day long with people around you, and it's exciting. Then you've just in an arena with all of these people, and then it's like good night, and you're like, what do I do with this energy?
Yeah.
And it just drops so much, and all of a sudden I get really sad, and I think, why am I sad? This is what I want to do. It's not like I want to do anything else. I had a great day, but I learned later on it is energy. A lot of you don't know how to process that high and that low. So I'd go in the bubble bath, which has always been my favorite. It's still my favorite. And I would just sing and I would play Rod Stewart, and that would always be my music to comfort myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, we use music for many different things.
Massively, and I'm always intrigued as to, I think there's two ways of dealing with like if you wake up and you're feeling blue, or like you said, you clearly had like a drop of adrenaline after the show, and you do have that sort of come down from that,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes people can lean on super chirpy, upbeat pop to kind
Right.
of lift themselves out of it, but I mean, I've done 700 of these shows now, Tiff, and I think most people I speak to and ask this question just go, nah, I want something somber. I want something
Yeah.
sad. I want that big hug of sad music to kind of, have a hug with. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think for me, sometimes I want something that's going to make me cry, so I'll just get over it.
Yeah.
I call it emptying the tanks.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're in your head and you're just like, and you had to put on the game face and there's people around, but you're feeling it kind of bubble up inside and whatever it is. And so, yeah, a sad song just brings it out. I'm like, let's just do
Absolutely.
it. Let's just go there.
Lean
Let's get
into it.
there. Yeah, let's lean into it. Get it done. So, because I do think it's sometimes a good cry, it makes you feel better.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Tiff, tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
My time at school. Well, don't you forget about me. Definitely. Simple Minds. I've always said, I don't really like alarm clocks, but if there was one that went, hey, 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 and right into don't you, I'd be like, okay, let's get up. All right. It is, I mean, it's just one of my favorite songs. It's one of my favorite 80s songs ever. I get it. This is the one that makes me really happy.
Oh, from
So,
Rocky 3
yeah.
to Breakfast Club. Two,
Well,
another
yeah. But
iconic
I
film.
mean, I love Breakfast Club, the movie. I think it was so unique. I mean, obviously in 80s movies, we had 16 Candles, we had all of those great movies at that time. But Breakfast Club was just really pinpointed the diversity in high school and being, I'm sure in all schools really, but being in American school, I had the rockers, the preps, the loners, you had the cheerleader girls, you had all of that. And where do you fit in that? And for me, I kind of like, I never fit in any of that really. So I kind of just ebbed and flow. I was really lucky. I had a lot of friends in a lot of different, and I don't know how I even pulled that off, actually, because you really kind of had to be a thing in high school. And I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I loved rock music. I loved mod clothing. I knew some girls that were preps and cheerleaders. They were really too happy for me, though, you know? I mean, and I was like 14 when I started traveling and singing. And so I missed a lot of my high school being part of any kind of, group. I would come in off of the road on a Sunday, go to school on a Monday, and then Fridays, right after school, I was on a plane. So I was already in adult world and stuff. And that gets harder actually to be in a group or to keep up relationships with your friends
Yeah.
when you're not around.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I started to kind of like lose like, I'd come back and it'd be like, oh, Amy and Scott. And they're like, Amy and Scott broke up. Like, where were you? And I'm like, well, I was in Cincinnati actually. That's where I was. And and I started also on the mall tour. It got harder and harder. I, started to miss first period because I had to sleep in. So there was a lot of like different challenges. But I mean, the one thing that, I remember was this song just bringing me back to, in a weird way, that comfort feeling of this movie that it's that's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal to like not always have it together, and that a lot of people who thought they had it together maybe didn't have a great home life and all the things that come out in the movie of how they truly feel, and probably I could resonate with that again because of my home life.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was meeting so many different people, even at 14, 15. I was already traveling, meeting all these kids and going to different parts of America at that time. New York is very different from LA
Yeah.
and landing there, but yet somehow we still had the same thing going on.
Yeah.
You it was just different, but I mean, I remember the first time I landed in New York, and those kids just seemed a little different because they dressed different than me, and of course they had snow and they had the city and everything. I didn't have that. But then when we really broke it down, it was the same vibe, it was the same, the
Yeah.
feelings. So yeah, I think that's probably my attachment is the movie, but I love Simple Minds as well.
Yeah.
They're a mean band. I love them. They're
But
amazing.
did you know who? Because they didn't write that one. Obviously, they wrote all the other stuff, but they didn't write that. And do you know it was offered to first, and they turned it down.
No,
Duran Duran turned it down.
really.
Yeah. And then when Simple Minds got it, Jim Kerr from Simple Minds was like, right, I want to add some bits, and he got his little writing credits by adding two bits. So what he added was the dum dum hey 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 hey
It's my
and
favorite.
the opening the best bit,
Opening bit, yeah.
and then the last bit, the la 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 la
Oh
la,
my gosh.
the two best
Well,
bits of the
well
song.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nailed
Oh,
it.
absolutely, absolutely. All
Yeah.
right. I'm going to ask you now, Tiff, to tell me the first song you remember buying from a record store, please.
I do remember my very first, it was a vinyl, and the first that I ever bought, and I saved up for this money. I got this money actually from my birthday, and it was given to me from my dad had a construction company. And I remember one of the guys working for the construction company. I had to be about 9, 10, maybe 10, and he was an older guy, and I had a big massive crush on him. He was really, really, really cute. And so, but he came home every day. Like, he got in the car with my dad in the truck, and then they'd go off, and then, he at the end of the day he'd come, and then he'd take his car and go away. So he was always coming in. Sometimes he'd stay for dinner or whatever. And I'm sure he could tell that I had a little bit of a crush. So he gave me birthday money. And I remember going, oh, what am I going to do with this? And I decided to go and buy a vinyl with it. It was my first very vinyl, and that was Staying Alive, the Bee Gees.
It
And
don't get any better, really, does it?
I played that vinyl, and you know what? My mom liked the Bee Gees, so I didn't have any of that nonsense. You're playing it too much, and I didn't have any of that. Like I was allowed to keep playing it because everybody in the household loved it.
Yeah.
So that was a good one to pick the very first, wasn't the same when I chose to buy an Aussie record. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" But the Bee Gees, I was in. So that was my very first vinyl, my very first album that I bought.
That's so cool. Normally, people's first like purchases are really embarrassing when you look back. But yeah, Bee Gees, that's so cool.
Bee Gees, that's what I want to do with my money from a hottie.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, I want to ask you before we sort of move on from the sort of the formative years. I generally ask guests about school and did they know what they wanted to be, but I guess I don't need to ask you really because at 14 you was already doing it.
I was, yeah. It just, I mean, I don't know if I knew what I wanted to do, but I started as a dancer. I had an older cousin who was already in like dance class and doing some performances. And of course, I wanted to be like her. She was like my everything. She was my, I was a pesky little cousin, but to me, she was my everything. So, my mom, had me in pageants, and that just happened at first because in the grocery store, somebody said, "Oh, what a cute little redheaded girl." And my mom was like, "Okay," she was a single mom, and they offered her a card to take some pictures and, do some pageants. And my mom thought, okay. And my mom used to sew clothes. So she sewed some outfits for me and put me in my very first pageant, and I won, and I loved it. I just was always a ham. So I walked down there, just was doing my thing. My mom thought, okay, well, she likes it, so we'll keep doing it. It was something that my mom enjoyed doing. And then when my cousin started doing dance, she was like, well, maybe Tiffany would like to do dance. And so I started doing dance, and it was just me by myself. As the older girls would go and change their clothes, they would have me do a number by myself. And I would just go out there, and I was doing Tahitian dance at the time, and tap. So had no problem being on stage by myself, which, again, was meant to be, I guess. And then from there, really, I would be in my room singing all the time. And when my mom started dating my stepfather, they were always calling me out of the bedroom, come on, come to dinner. Like, then that was just my thing. I sang all the time. Even when I was setting the plates for dinner, or in the car, I was always sticking my head out the car. And then especially I'd turn around and pretend the lights in the cars were my stage. And I remember getting yelled at all the time because my dad was like, I can't see out of the mirror. Stop doing that. And finally, he was kind of like, this is what you like to do. You like to sing. And we ended up with a neighbor who was actually a professional band, and they had been touring a little bit. They made a record, they did some stuff in Vegas, and their daughter was the same age as me. So we became quick friends. But they always had parties at their house. And my girlfriend, she knew how to play piano already. So I would go to their house and she would play. And it was like this very musical family. And one day my dad said, well, Tiffany sings all the time. Let her get up and sing. And I just got up there and sang, not a problem, because I had actually sang with Tracy, but for some reason her dad, Danny, had never really heard me. And I got up and sang Delta Dawn, and everybody like went, "What is that?" Because I sounded like I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
And Danny was like, "Whoa, Dan, I mean, if you really want to do something with this, I think she's got something. I mean, her voice is amazing."
Yeah.
I think they were a little weirded out though that I did sound so much like an adult woman. It was
Yeah.
like, well, what do we do with that? But then, Danny just kind of pointed my dad, well, she'll need a demo tape and she'll need a headshot and this and that. And then that's pretty much how we were off to the races. Didn't stop after that. So
Fantastic.
yeah, I mean, since I was 9 years old, I've been doing this professionally or seeking the music industry.
So I'm curious for the next track, which is the song that soundtrack your years clubbing. Did you get time to club?
Well, this one was hard because no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, I had to think of something. Well, no, I didn't really. I was on the road for what, 3.5 years straight from the time I was like 15 until I was like 18. But when I was like 18 and a half, I took a pause. I found new management, but I went to New York and did another album, whole different journey, more of a dance album. So I was in New York, and I was like, finding myself.
Yeah.
I left LA, I moved to New York, was doing a new album. It was more dance, having a total different experience. Again, New York is so different from LA. And clubbing. I did get a chance there for a minute to like kind of go places and be clubbing in New York. And shortly after that, I ended up, becoming a mom and getting married and moving back to California. So my clubbing days were very short. But this song really stood out for me, and its groove is in the heart.
Oh,
By Delight. I mean, I remember, and another thing, I remember being able to wear one piece bodysuits just like she did, because I had a really good body. And that was the thing. And I remember I had black hair at the time, and I used to wear glasses when I didn't need them. Uh, and I had these funky hats on. So it was a whole different, if people know what I'm talking about, was the New Inside album
yeah.
that transpired out of that. And yes, I had black hair. I wore, bodysuits. I was more fashion oriented than I ever did. Big, big red lips, stick, and like very, very like kind of like pale, makeup on, and like my cat eyes. And it was, I mean, I got a lot of flack for that, really. My label was like, who are you? but I think again, it was the first time that I really could be an adolescent. It was like
Yeah,
the first time that I could really find so many of my friends were sitting home playing in the mirror with makeup, trying different hairstyles. I didn't have time for that. I was on the road, and certainly they didn't want me to change my image at all. There was, and I didn't even think about it at the time. But then, when I took a pause and I changed and knew inside and being in New York, it was like, wow, there's all this fashion around me and this is cool. And I want to dye my hair black and I just want to find myself, be something different. And so, this song was always like a fun song for me. I love the band, of course, and I love the look and it was a really fun song. So I remember lots of nights just literally grooving on the
yeah.
dance floor to this. Yeah,
Oh, what a
definitely.
record it is. What a record it is. And I'll tell you what, for a 15-year-old me, Lady Miss Kia in that catsuit, oh my God, there
Oh
was
my
there was a
God.
lot of lads my age that
Yeah.
were just swooning over her. She was unbelievable. And
Yes.
yeah, what
Yeah, I
a
mean,
band.
it's still the jam because I mean,
Oh, it's
I'll put this on,
incredible. That
I'll put
bass
this on
line.
with my niece and my nephew, and they love it. Like my niece is a dancer, but she starts moving her little body, and yeah, this is definitely one that is a must. You have to play this. This is fun.
Absolutely. And if that drops and you don't feel the desire to dance, there's something
Something's
wrong with you.
wrong. Exactly.
All right. Well, look, from clubbing, let's take you home. And I'm going to ask you now, Tiff, to tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Well, I think originally the band is from Indianapolis, I believe. But I believe the lead singer is from an LA. I think he's an LA guy, if I got it right. Maybe, good Sunset Girl. Would be, gosh, Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses. I decided Sweet Child of Mine because I've sang it so many times. Paradise City is also one of my favorite, and it's about LA. Um, but Sweet Child of Mine, is I think that was something like we'd never heard before. And I just remember this happening, and living this in LA. And I've sang the song before too, and it's a monster, it's a beast, and I love it. I love Guns N' Roses, of course, so yeah, this was like the LA jam.
Yeah.
This was it.
I think it's for people that maybe have discovered Guns N' Roses retrospectively now. They know all the tunes and they've seen the tours that they've done over recent years and stuff. And we all know that they make great rock music, but I think when you look at what was going on in rock in like 87, 88, like no one was doing when they come out with Welcome to the Jungle and stuff like that. People hadn't heard rock music like that before.
Oh
it
no.
was it was like it had such a punk influence as well, and it was just
Yeah.
it didn't sound like anything else, and I think
Yeah.
they rewrote rock at that point, and
Well, I mean, and even I mean, even fashion and the look and the whole thing. I mean, that was it. I remember everything just changing,
yeah,
and it was like they were just it was became an LA look. It
yeah,
became an LA thing. Every band wanted to be like Guns N' Roses. That was it.
yeah,
And I mean, you couldn't. It was just constantly on the radio. It was constantly in every band playing it. And everybody wanted to look like Axl Rose, and they were like immersed with Slash, like this rock god guitarist. Like, you got to be kidding me. And then, of course, is he under there
yeah,
with this hair and this cigarette and all of it? I mean, we just, the theatrical part of it as well, which they were really those people, but I mean, it just was like the perfect world together.
yeah,
I mean, very talented, great songs, and just again, a great look.
yeah.
They had all the boxes just ticked. So, yeah, one of
Absolutely.
my favorite bands. Yeah.
Great choice, Tiff. Great choice. Right, it's your last track, and this is a song that I want you to tell the listeners of the show, and it's a song that you think many may not know that you would like them to go and hear.
Well, I discovered this artist on the road actually, and I was driving through Virginia. And it was one of those, curvy roads where nothing is actually in the backwoods of Virginia. and no radio station going through, and all of a sudden through the this song came on, and it was still kind of broken, and it was just such a beautiful voice. And then it came, like in clearer. And I was like, oh, what's this? Because I love folk music. I love jazz music. I think I said that I just really love music. And this voice was just like such an angel. And I was like, oh, who is that? And then they said, oh, this is Eva Cassidy, Autumn Leaves. And I was like, oh gosh, I really love that artist. So quickly, I started, again, trying to find more about Eva Cassidy, and I found out she had already passed away. But that I didn't stop me from becoming a new fan.
Yeah.
And I just started getting her albums, listening to her music. And it's quite sad story because by the time she became famous and started to have a buzz around her, she found out she had cancer,
Yeah.
and passed away before really the fame, and
Yeah,
took
absolutely.
her album and started playing it after that. But, she did a lot of live shows, and, a lot of people did have the wonderful opportunity to actually see her live. And I wish I would have been one of those people, but she is somebody that I aspire to be like as a vocalist. There's just her voice is just like silk, and she has got a live album. And to sit there and think you recorded that live with no edits, none of this Pro Tools stuff, sitting there playing guitar at times, just in this little tiny bluesy club, and that was the outcome. Yes, ma'am. But Autumn Leaves is just it's a beautiful song. It's a slow song. It's totally different than anything we've talked about. It is one of those heart wrenchers, but it's just again such a well-written song. And me being a Libra, my birthday October, a lot of my family are Libras. We're all October. And then having one of my best friends and best person in my life pass away from addiction, my cousin, who I talked about earlier, who I was listening to her songs. Um, when this is how I feel about her. I know this is probably written about a lover, but for me, I spent so much time with her, and I always thought we would be together raising our sons together. And October, she was a Libra as well. We did so much in that month because we were getting ready for the holidays, and there's just so it just sets the picture. Every time I start to feel the autumn happen, I can feel her. I literally can. It was a great time for us, so I've got great memories. But definitely, there's always that void when you're missing someone. And when I heard this song and I got a chance to actually get it and play it at home, that was the first bonding with that song. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this says everything I would want to say. Because there's a part in there about the tanned hands. Well, my cousin could tan. She was a blonde. So, I could never tan. She loved the pool, and she loved, and we used to lay out there, and I used to burn, and she used to get beautifully brown. So I mean, even every lyric you go through, again, just for me, it said everything I wanted to say, really. So, and again, I think she's an amazing artist. It's too bad we don't have her still with us, but we sure can still enjoy her music, and it's a blessing.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, I discovered a like so many people in the UK did. So there was a show which oh, you must have been on. Was you on Top of the Pops in the UK?
It was one of my favorites to be on.
Right, good,
I
because
loved
this
it.
is one another thing I want to do then, because I love speaking to people that have been on Top of the Pops. Because growing up in the UK, it was the one show that you had to watch each week because that's where
Yeah,
you saw your pop stars. Right,
yeah.
tell me about your experience on Top of the Pops. Did it deliver everything that you
Well,
anticipated it would?
yeah, I used to do it quite often. So I don't know how many times I was on Top of the Pops, maybe 5 or 6 times. And I mean, I loved it every time, having the live audience there. And I used to think about what am I gonna wear? I mean, because I didn't ever really thought about I'm on TV because like that's too in your head. It was like, oh, there's live people there. And I was just saying this, not to discredit any of the experiences I've had now recently in the UK, but it's a different time period.
Yeah,
Going to the studio in the 80s was a big deal. like you really felt the biz. It was like you got your label was there. People used to come out, they'd take you, you had the car service, you'd go into hair and makeup, and it was, what are you gonna wear? And so that was just on everyday talk shows. It was like a big deal. And then they had the live audience and then you did your thing and you really just shine. And that was such a big show. And I remember feeling, I felt like a star. It
Yeah.
was weird because I'm not that person. Like, I'm just not that person. There's a lot of times people have to remind me, like, you're a public figure, hello. But I just kind of go through my day. But on that show, I felt like a star,
Yeah.
and it was so much fun, and there was just so much energy. And I don't know, from the people who said hello to you, who greeted you, to the hosts, to the staff, to the audience, to the other guests on the show, it was a great vibe. It was really, and I think that translated for the people sitting in their living room.
Oh,
You could
absolutely,
just tell.
absolutely. And it was at the end of one of those shows that a Radio One DJ, Steve Wright, who sadly passed, he voiced it over and he went, "Look, we're going to play out with this, and it's this footage of this woman singing in a bar, and no one in the UK had heard of her, and it was her doing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I mean, like, I think that the phone lines must have been jammed with people
Yeah,
just going, "Who the hell is this woman?
yeah,
Where is this voice been
yeah,
hiding?" Because
yeah.
it was so beautiful, and her voice is so huge when it's so beautiful and subtle, and then certainly in that song as well, it just soars, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my
I
life,
mean, that was the thing. And when I listened to Autumn Leaves, and then when I got the album, it just got better.
yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh, like and I did not know when I first got the album she had passed away.
yeah,
So I was like talking about her, and somebody was like, I was like, I want to go see her play. And they're like, she's passed away. And I was like, what?
yeah,
Like, it was such a game changer because I mean, I really just fell in love more and more with
yeah,
her. So I was really sad. But yeah, I mean, that's how it happened.
yeah,
Somebody played her album, and they just loved her voice. So yes, I hope that people will really enjoy and become an Eva Cassidy fan. I actually want to do an Eva Cassidy night
nice,
where I get to dress up in my pretties, sit by a piano, and just sing a lot of the songs that she's recorded. I think it would go over really, really well. And as a vocalist, it would be really magical for me. Hopefully, I would do it justice. But she's really that instrumental to my career now.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be a beautiful night to kind of honor her.
Fantastic. Well, look, we've spoken about so many other people's music, and what everybody else has been up to. We need to talk about you because, I mean, it's so generational. Because I had my formative years. When you was having your number one hits, and now my children are going, "You've got the woman that sings the song on Stranger Things on your podcast," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes."
Yeah.
So I want to know, Tiff, like what's going on with you? Tell me everything that's coming up for you.
Oh gosh, new music, probably at the end of this year. I've got a home studio now, so the sky is the limit. We just kind of write and produce when we want to. And I think the industry has changed so much. I mean, eventually I will have a full album, but I think this year I'm just going to live music. So I'm going to do some single releases. I'm going to do some dance stuff. Of course, I had Shadows in 2020, 2019. So that's kind of my new sound, if you will. It's got an 80s thread through it with a little bit more of a rock, kind of a Pat Benatar, if you will, sound to it. And that's something I've been working on for a long time, and finally nailed it. We were recording stuff, and that is the sound. So I want to keep in that vein. But again, I want to do things that interest me. I love ballads. So, and I've been talking about doing something that is a sit down, little bit more, one night only. Eva Cassidy, a new song in that vein, just a really beautiful singer-songwriter night. And I think, again, with the industry the way that it is now, it's always great for the fan to have an album, but we don't work albums
Yeah,
anymore. It just doesn't, it's not really required, especially for somebody like me. So I can have fun just creating music. What it allows is, is just to live music. Just tap into your fans, do what you feel is in the moment and have fun with it. Of course, I've got the cookbook called Pop Life. So I'm going to be out, doing a lot of shows. I've got the All This Time show right now, which is mainly just my retro stuff, and we'll be doing that in America. And then I come back here to the UK and do a lot of the festivals, which I love because I get to be with a lot of the artists that we talked about, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so I mean, those are always fun, and people are just ready to party and have a good time. And it makes me happy. So I love doing that. And then book signings. I'm doing a lot of book signings up and coming, and a lot of food and music events where we will feature some of the recipes in my Pop Life cookbook and then an acoustic set. So I
Mm.
really do think food and music goes hand in hand. It's
Oh yeah.
people get more bang for their buck, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm living Pop Life in all different ways right now.
I love that. And Tiff, if people want to keep up to speed with all of this, like where's the best place to sort of keep up with all things Tiffany?
Well, Instagram or Facebook. Facebook is Tiffany, Instagram, Tiffany Tunes, or the website, tiffanytunes.com. So all
Wonderful.
Tiff World. And that the website will take you to all the different things, my Let's Food, Pop Life, and all the different adventures I've got going on.
Excellent. Well, look, when this episode comes out, we'll tag you in it, so we'll make it nice and easy for those that aren't following you yet to make sure that they do. Tiff, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for giving up your
Oh,
time and
thank you
talking
so
records.
much. Thank you guys. Sending love. Thank
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Tiff. I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.